Hello and welcome to the 52nd episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and happy anniversary to us.
A whole year. It's pretty crazy.
Pretty impressive if you consider how much travel that I do, and the fact we've been doing the show long distance.
I know. I moved in between.
Someday this will be a video. Podcast.
Yes.
I would love to do that.
I moved to a different state, took a new job, and still we stayed consistent.
Yeah, we've been able to do it.
And obviously, a big thank you to the people that have supported us.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I talked to one of my students today who told me that he had a lot of time on his hands. He listened to 11 back-to-back episodes. So that really impressed me.
That's pretty impressive. That's a lot. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
I think so. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned on the show last week, I was at the NBA AllStar Weekend. I didn't stay for the game, but I went to the Tech Summit on Friday, which is one of my favorite things the NBA does. And then I went to AllStar Saturday night on Saturday night, which I thought was one of the better Saturday nights I've seen in the last couple of years. But I want to start off with my business moment. It's pretty much just some food for thought for our listeners. They have 5 panels during the NBA Tech Summit, and one of them was on the rise of esports. And you've heard Jason and I talk on this several different times about how we think this is the growth. So Ted Leonsis, who is the owner of this company's called Monumental Sports, he owns the Wizards, the Capitals, the Arena, a cable network, a regional sports network, and a number of other things. But he also was the founder of American Online, which back in the 80s was really one of the vehicles that really led us to where we are right now in terms of technology, the internet, and communication. So Ted Leonsis was talking about esports, and he said it's been around since 1972 with Pong. And then he said American Online in the 80s was developed in part to connect Atari users.
Huh.
And he said there's 4 billion people connected around the world, but only 300 million are in the U.S. And here's what I think, Jason. Here's what he said, and because he said it, it really impressed me. Esports will be the major sport, bigger than the NFL and bigger than the NBA.
Wow.
That's a statement, isn't it?
That's a huge statement.
And it's some other people. Chris Bosch. Esports will be the biggest because it's global, and the competition could be global every day.
It's true.
Vivek Randeep, who is the owner of the Sacramento Kings, said that sports and esports are a social network. It's the best way to grow. 1/3 of humanity plays games. 1/3 of humanity.
I play daily almost. I pretty much play daily. So,
yeah.
I get it.
And then Neil Mohan from YouTube says esports represents hundreds of millions of hours watching, creating, and sharing video. Personalities are emerging, and gamers are some of the most well-known personalities. It's truly global without having to travel.
Ooh.
And here's David Levy from Turner. And David Levy said his E-League that they televise,
right.
The E-League is an attempt to drive people back to consuming via the television. Storytelling about esports athletes is a key to growing the sport. Focus on the amateur, as the majority of all gamers are amateurs, not professionals. That's a lot of information that I just shared, but I think it all points to what you and I consistently talk about, that, people are underestimating this. That this, to me, and I'm 67 years old, and I just think this is where it's going to be. That this is a game, and I think, and I said all along, I think the fantasy games are always going to be more popular than the ball and stick games, for the reason that they will continue to reinvent themselves. Basketball is basketball, right?
Right.
It is what it is. Basketball is basketball. You can have 5 people playing, each person has a role, but it's basically their understanding of basketball and what they do. Whereas League of Legends, if you make a left turn, you might fall in a volcano or a dragon might kick your ass. Who knows what's going to happen? And that's what I think is the best thing about the fantasy things, is they can continue to evolve and grow. And that's every time you play is a new experience. Whereas I don't see the ball and stick games. I think you play play a different opponent. You might have a tougher game, but the game is basically the same.
Well, I would also say, for me, the sports that I enjoy watching are the sports that I participated in. And,
Okay.
and with esports, everybody can participate in it. I mean, I've been very blessed. I'm 6'4". I can still dunk even at my age. But I mean, I know a lot. I mean, like, not everybody can play sports. Not everybody's going to have the physical, but everybody, I mean, not everybody. I should take that back. Not everybody, but esports, like video games in general, are open to everybody. Male, female, heights, weights, none of that like, it does come down to hand-eye coordination and skill and practice like everything else and putting time in, but everyone can do it as opposed to basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one's going to be LeBron James or Giannis Antetokounmpo, the freak. Like, there's a reason they're considered freak. I mean, they're anomalies. Like, if you're by the time you get to be 7 or 8, maybe you're never going to be an NBA player, but you could be the next great League of Legends player. That could happen. Because you're not going to be, because you never grow to be 6'5", you're not going to be limited as to what you can, I think that opens it up too for a lot of people. It's more it's relatable. It's something that that as long as you can afford the console and the game, like, you can play, regardless of your athletic ability. Obviously, hand-eye coordination is an athletic event in and of itself, and I don't want to dismiss the athletes that do play esports. I mean, obviously, as I go online and get myself smoked half the time when I play against anybody good, I get it. Like, there's a different level of hand, but I mean, you can still, play at a high level, I suppose.
Right.
And maybe if you've dedicated more time to one particular game, you could get really good. But I think that helps. I don't know. And hopefully I'll throw a link into the comments or I'll throw a link into the section. But there's also a site that now sells esports jerseys, and some of them are really, really cool. So you can start supporting your favorite esports team. And I'll try to link that into the description of the show so everybody can check that out too.
Yeah.
Because they have some really cool stuff.
So there was probably maybe 500 or 600 people, invitation only. It's the toughest ticket AllStar Weekend, believe it or not. It's tougher than the Saturday night skills, and it's tougher than the thing because it's invitation only, and that's the only way you get in. You can't buy the ticket. It's there. It's closed. You can't publicize. Can't promote anything. Can't record it. Can't tape it. But it's an amazing event. I've been fortunate that the NBA still invites me, even though I haven't worked full time for the NBA in over 10 years. But they take good care of their own. That's one of the reasons I still am a big fan of the NBA. I really appreciate everything they've done for me and changed my life.
Definitely. So you were live at the dunk contest. If we could start there.
I was live at the dunk contest. So Saturday night, I watched the skills competition. And, it's always the bigs versus the guards. And to me, and I told you this when we talked the other day, to me, the competition in that skill, that first skill, that is the pass you have to make into that container. And if you don't make it, it really slows you down. And that was the key to the game, because the guy from Finland that plays for the Bulls, and his name is Laura something.
Marketing? Lauren Marketing?
Yeah, Marketing. Was amazing for as big as he is. And he just dominated the first 2 rounds. And he came down and each time he took the first 3, he hit it both times. And in the last one, he missed that pass. And he came down, and the other guy took either 2 or 3 shots to make the 3. That's how much extra time he had. And Marketing didn't even get to shoot his 3. I mean, it was already over. But I was really impressed with him. I loved that competition. The dunk contest was, to me, the best it's been in quite a while because of the creativity and the heritage and the ingenuity of the people that ran it. I thought Larry Nance Jr. should have won, but the big guy never wins because the little guy always gets the benefit of the doubt in the dunk contest because he has to jump higher. Whereas the point I would make is that the stuff Larry Nance was throwing down was ridiculous.
It was. And as I pointed out when I watched him, like, there's been other little guys that have skied. And not to take anything away with Mitchell, but Mitchell's 6'3" or 6'4", and, like, it looked like he was just getting at the minimum distance above the rim. Like, he wasn't skying. And again, it's not knock his act. But I wondered also, with this the little guy, big guy thing, you mentioned the judges. Not
Hmm.
you had was it Chris Rock,
Chris Rock, um,
Mark Wahlberg,
Dominique Wilkins,
Dominique Wilkins.
Mark Wahlberg. Um, was it Dominique Wilkins or was it Dr. J? I can't remember because they didn't really use him. DJ Khaled, and that's the only person they ever interviewed. Oh, and Lisa Leslie.
So outside of, I mean,
If you got Chris Rock, if you're going to talk to somebody on a panel, I'm sorry, I'm talking to Chris Rock.
I know.
I mean, I think Chris Rock would be entertaining. I think he has something smart to say. I would. If Spike Lee was in the house, I'd put Spike Lee on the judging committee. Who sees more basketball than Spike Lee or Billy Crystal? They were both there. I was just disappointed, and then I know that they criticize when you put the former dunk champions on because they're harder, they're tougher, but
That's the whole point. You're judging a dunk contest. I mean, you have DJ Khaled who can't dribble, Mark Wahlberg who comes up to my waist, and Chris Rock. I mean, how are they supposed to dunk a? They never dunked a basketball in their life. How are they going to judge a dunk? How can they judge? You know.
I agree.
I like when they put on the former players. I know they're a little bit harsher, but it's people that know what they're doing. You know, doing it. Now, did you watch the All-Star game on TV?
No, we were on a flight.
Okay.
I could see it.
Now, I did watch. It did start with, obviously, Fergie getting just trashed on Twitter.
And I didn't see that, but the memes and the gifs and everything else, I guess, was pretty bad.
Yeah, and, I mean, Steph Curry was liking tweets bashing her during the All-Star game. Draymond Green is obviously a meme as he was, like, trying to hold back. It looked like laughter at one point during the song.
It was bad.
It was bad.
I heard the clips this morning. It was bad.
It was bad. I mean, I listened to her and she sort of came out and basically said, you know, I wanted it to be special. I wanted to do something a little bit different, but still be respectful. And I'm sorry that it went awry. But it was, you know, it was kind of fun. I mean, I feel bad for her on some level because I think like she was sincerely trying to do something, you know, but, you know, it was what it was. The game itself was like a typical, you know, like, it didn't feel like, you saw the final score, and it never felt like it was that exciting a game to me, personally. It felt like it was a lot of making sure nobody looked bad, and everybody got to shine a little bit. It was almost like a WWE event, where you want to make sure everybody gets hit their finisher and everybody gets their moment to shine kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
And that's what it sort of feels like now when I watch the All-Star game.
Yeah. The one lead-in I heard was kind of funny this morning. He said, "Who would ever have believed that the All-Star game was going to be decided by defense?"
Yeah. But when you got Durant and LeBron shutting down Steph Curry's smaller team, like it really did work at the end. They were just so big and so long. That's why I always think when they say, you know, people talk small ball, small ball, small ball all the time, it's somewhat of a misnomer. Like, I know that it means you're not playing a traditional big man typically, but I think it's not small in so much as you no longer can have just a big, slow team. Like, Kevin Durant is 7 feet tall. Klay Thompson is 6 foot. You know, like, they're not a small team. Like, they still have a 7-footer. You know, like, I know Steph Curry is one of the shorter players, but I'm like, it's not really small ball. You just have more skilled big men.
That's accurate.
Yeah. Because small ball makes it think like you're playing like 5 guards. You're just playing, just the big man is involved where he can do more stuff, and then the wings have gotten bigger. You know, where you've got guys that are 6'7" with a 7'2" wingspan, which is not small by any stretch.
No,
not even historically speaking. Like, I think teams are technically taller than they used to be if the stats are correct. So, but the one big thing that came out this morning that was sort of the controversy is that Jimmy Butler and LaMarcus Aldridge asked to not play very many minutes because they said they needed to rest. And Lou Williams, who did not make the All-Star team, and somebody else sort of tweeted like, "Really, bro?" Like they were upset that, you know, if you wanted to go,
really like to play in the game,
right?
So why put somebody on a team that doesn't want to be there, doesn't want to play? It's kind of like a Pro Bowl. You always get those guys opting out of the Pro Bowl, and the guy taking their place is probably going to put out more and be happier to be there than the guy who was selected in the first place.
True, but I mean, the All-Star game is also, it's parties. It's not that Jimmy Butler still couldn't have probably shown up and hung out and done all those sorts of things. Um, but I he's playing for Thibodeau, who runs you into the ground, so maybe he needed the rest. I don't know, but it does seem like if you don't want to play, like bow out and allow somebody else to get there. Because I'm sure you'd still get your roster bonus if you were selected an All-Star. I don't really know how his contract is set up, but
I think that's exactly how it works. If you're voted in or you're selected, you get a bonus. I agree.
I think whether or not he opted not to play or not wouldn't have affected his bonus. So it's not like a financial situation. So it was interesting. Right. I felt sort of odd about it. I read an article on ESPN to switch gears into a different sport, one of your favorite sports. They were talking about some different minor league systems that are experimenting with different extra innings rules. And they were wondering if there was a way to avoid 18-inning, 19-inning games in baseball. So they proposed a number of different, and there's one league that's actually trying something now where they're starting with a runner on first and second to start the extra innings.
Yeah. And when you and I talked earlier about this, we were kind of talking about what we were going to talk about in the show. I talked about my softball league. You play, and we play state tournaments every month. You start with a 3-2 count, and then you play 7 innings, but you're also timed. So if you don't get 7 innings, you don't get 7 innings in. But if you end 7 innings and it's tied, then you start with a runner on second. So whoever makes the last out the previous inning starts on second base. And you know what? I realize that's not the purest way to interpret the rules of baseball.
Far from it. Purest standpoint.
It is a solution. Like I saw the speed up rules they announced today. They're going to limit you to 6 visits between catchers, infielders, and coaches per game. And if you have extra innings, you get an extra visit or 2. But in a 9-inning game, you get 6 visits. So it means if the catcher comes out to see how you are, that's 1. Or if the infielder comes in to ask you a question, that's 2. So I can see how that would help.
It could help, definitely.
But there's just a lot of that. But the other bullshit about stepping in and out of the batter's box and adjusting your glove 9 million times, that's the part that drives me nuts. That's the part that takes forever.
Do you think, is there a solution to, because like I said, some of these other extra inning things they talked about, where you could reshuffle the batting order as the manager every single inning in extra innings, which...
Yeah, I don't like that. That's getting too far from the core of the game.
Right.
If your guy makes an out, he shouldn't be up. If your best hitter makes an out, you shouldn't be able to put him up again the next inning. You got to take your chances.
Right. So they've tried all these things that clearly the baseball purists, no matter what it is, the baseball purists are going to reject it on principle. Baseball is a very traditional sport.
But like this limiting the visits, who knows if there were visits when the rules of baseball were created?
Right.
I know the replay stuff wasn't there, so you made that change. You had a designated hitter in one league, so you made that change. So don't give me all the argument about the rules and the history and traditions. You've already changed them.
Now, as somebody that doesn't watch that much baseball anymore, like for me, I know I think the average game is, I think it's shortened by about 4 or 5 minutes from where it used to be at its longest. But if the Steelers play a 6-hour football game, I'm watching the entire 6 hours because it's the Steelers and I want to watch the Steelers. I don't know how much time baseball could possibly trim off that's going to bring in...
Here's what I'll tell you. In 1951, Bill Veeck did a game with the St. Louis Browns where people had been criticizing how bad the Browns were. They were bad. They were the worst team in baseball. And people were saying, I could manage that team. I could manage that team. So he said, fine. And he picked out 100 people and sat them in the grandstands and gave them each a sign that says yes or no. Okay?
Okay.
This is true story. This is not bullshit. True story. And every time there was a decision to be made, like should we play the infield back? Should we bring the infield in? The guy would walk out with the sign asking the question, and the fans would vote by sticking their signs up. Then they have to count them, and then he would do that. Okay?
Okay.
And how long that game took to play? 2 hours and 12 minutes, which today would be one of the shortest games of the year.
Wow, that's insane.
That is insane, because look at all you had to do. But you know what you didn't have, Jace? You didn't have a bazillion commercial breaks. You had a baseball game, 1951. made it so commercial. We don't care about the people in the building. We care about the people on television.
Right.
And that's it's the problem with the NFL. Problem with both of them. Let's get back to creating an entertaining product that has flow and has speed and has a discernible time limit.
No, it makes sense. Like I said, my point before is like I don't know what you could do. I mean, even if they shaved off another 10 minutes, I'm not going to watch any more baseball than I watch now.
I hear you. So now since we're on baseball, I get to go on a rant again, okay?
Please do.
So besides my Pirates pissing me off, now the Rays are doing it here in Tampa.
Yes, they are.
I mean, it's a question as to which one, and the Marlins have already done it, so it's a question, who's going to be the absolute worst team? And what irks me is, which of these owners cares the least about their fans? Is it Nutting? Is it Stu Sternberg? Is it Jeter and company? Who cares the least about their fans? That's what we're the battle here. And I'll tell you what, I'm really sick of it. So that's why I have decided to be an Angels fan this year and just back somebody that's willing to spend money on their team.
And again, there's very few people that can own a Major League Baseball team. It'd be nice if it was the people that owned them were, in sort of that, as much as I bemoan to bring in another sport, the owner of the Knicks, and Pittsburgh never had a team, and when you took me to Madison Square Garden to watch a basketball game, it was just magical. I fell in love.
That is magic. It's a magical place to go.
It's a magical place to go. And as horrible an owner as he is, and he is god-awful, he does at least spend money.
He does. He doesn't spend it wisely, but he spends money.
He's incredibly incompetent in his decisions, but, I think he really does want the team to be good. He just,
He does.
He can't make the decision.
He's not the general. He's kind of interferes in things he probably shouldn't interfere in.
Right. And he hired,
about the Cowboys and Jerry Jones. He probably has better people to make decisions, and sometimes maybe he likes a guy a little bit more than somebody else, and he wants him to play, and he drafts him, and he makes sure it happens.
Right, but again,
different world. But you know what? Money talks and BS walks. So that's where you are.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. He's a terrible owner. As a fan, you can't stand him, but you can't bemoan the fact that he does spend money and he wants to win. Whereas you look at the teams you just talked about, and I don't think Nutting wants to win in Pittsburgh.
Nutting cares. There was an article in the Pittsburgh paper today that said basically Nutting doesn't care. In my one interaction with Nutting, and I can't really get into the details because I was a consultant at the time, but there was an opportunity to interact and take some fan input, and the fan input indicated that a decision should go differently than what Nutting was thinking about, and so Nutting thanked them for their time, and when he left, he looked at me and goes, I don't care, it's not what we're going to do. And I remember him vividly saying, I don't care. And you know what? He doesn't care. And that's my problem with him. He doesn't care.
And again, we've talked about it before. Obviously, we are from Pittsburgh, and anyone listening to the podcast can figure that out. But I mean, that city will support that team if you put a team out there.
No, and I've been a Pirate fan since I was 8 years old. So that means 59 years. And this guy has made me less of a Pirate fan, and I sat through 100 game losing seasons. And this guy single-handedly has made me less of a fan than I've ever been of the Pirates.
It's very sad.
It's very sad. Very sad. So some comedic note. I watched Bubba Watson play Saturday night he played Friday night in the celebrity game. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, Bubba Watson played, and he went out and won the golf tournament.
Huh. That's pretty impressive.
And I would say Bubba was probably mediocre at best, but there was some really non-talented people playing in this celebrity game, including DJ Khaled.
Yeah. I often wonder, whether it's throwing out the first pitch or participating in a celebrity game. If you know you're bad, and I can't imagine you don't know that you're bad, why do you go ahead and do it?
It's ego, I guess, Chase. You think, maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am, or maybe I'm better than I think I am. I don't know. It just is really, the point is exactly the point. I mean, when I saw DJ Khaled take a shot, and I have to tell you, I didn't think it was Hoop's 10 foot, right?
Yeah.
You got to have a 12 or 13-foot arc to drop in the hoop.
Give or take, yeah.
His shot was maybe 6 feet. It was like a line drive. It wasn't even hit the net, and it didn't hit the net.
I was like, he should just stick to, producing music and screaming out his name on every track over and over again.
Yeah.
Seems to be what he does.
I would tell you, I think his ego is as big as he is.
Well, in some good Pittsburgh/Tampa Bay news, we can talk Hockey Minute.
Yes, we can talk Hockey Minute.
They are two of the best teams in the NHL right now, and the Penguins are streaking. The Penguins have won 9 straight at home, 11 straight overall. They just won 3 back-to-backs on the road against really good teams. The Tampa Bay always, they're getting that Capitals reputation right now, as the Capitals are also one of the best teams again. But the Capitals are the sort of the James Harden, Chris Paul of the NHL for the people that don't understand NHL very well. They always look great during the regular season. Ovechkin's always an MVP candidate, but they disappear in the playoffs. And Tampa Bay, despite winning that cup, has sort of had that same thing the last couple of years where they've been one of the favorites going in. But the big shock in the end...
A lot of injuries the last couple of years.
They have. But every team has injuries, as they always say. I mean, you look at the team that just won the Super Bowl. They lost 5 of their best players, and they still won. But the story really is the team in Las Vegas is still the best team in the NHL right now. The Penguins did just beat them recently, but still, an expansion team has a very good chance of winning the NHL Finals in the first year, which is pretty crazy.
Yes, I give kudos to the NHL for figuring out how not to make an expansion team a lame duck.
No, I'm not a huge fan. I like their colors. I don't really like their mascot. I think they kind of went lame with the knight. It looks a little bit like my alma mater's UCF knight, which I always thought was sort of lame. It's like a big Pletch knight, but I mean, they have the best record in hockey. And, it would be incredible, and really incredible if they somehow, I don't want them to win, obviously, as a Penguins fan. But the fact that an expansion team in that league is exciting and fun to watch is pretty crazy.
Sure, and it's kind of nice. If you think about it, it's kind of nice when your first pick in expansion draft is a goaltender from the Penguins.
I know. It's very sad. I almost teared up because they when he came back to Pittsburgh, they had a big tribute to him, and he spoke a little bit about his time in Pittsburgh. And I know as a Penguins fan, he was one of those guys that you love/hated because he was he helped win a couple cups, which you cannot deny, but you also felt like he cost them a couple cups at the same time with some of his play. But he clearly loved Pittsburgh. He loved being there. He loved that team, and they loved him, and it was a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, but it was nice that the people in Pittsburgh were happy for him to go and have this opportunity.
And it's great to see that he's making. I mean, I know he's been injured a little bit this year, but he's played great when he's got a chance to play, and it's really nice to see.
I think it's just fantastic. That's what he's been able to do.
It is. Well, if we want to switch to TV,
yes,
I have a half recommendation. You know Norman Lear, correct?
Pardon me?
Norman Lear?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Obviously, he's a sitcom legend. He did,
All in the Family, the Jeffersons.
He wrote an episode of South Park, one of my favorite shows of all time.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, he's a big fan of Matt Parker and Trey Stone. Anyway, he has a new sitcom. It's a remake of his old sitcom One Day at a Time on Netflix right now. The biggest name in it is Rita Moreno, who I think was on Broadway like 30 or 40 years ago in West Side Story and a few other things.
Uh-huh.
And it's a half recommendation because of this. It's a very traditional sitcom. Very traditional. In that it has some of those, it could be on like a CBS. It's got that's, sort of those jokes where you almost moan because they're so cliche and corny. And there's parts of the show that really don't work. But the main cast, the grandmother, the mother, and the 2 kids are unbelievable. They're great actors. And the show goes from sort of traditional sitcom to, it gets into some deep drama, usually in the last third. And it's really well done. It's very topical, and it got me to cry a couple of times. Like, it's a very beautifully well done show. That being said,
thank you for recommending
No,
with the original cast?
far from it. I haven't seen that yet. I have no idea. But this, the things that don't work though, the Schneider character, who I guess is from the original show, I don't know why he's on the show. And she has some friends
He's
that
got to
work.
be 300 years old.
No, he's the character. It's a different guy. It's supposed to. He's like a young guy
Oh, okay.
now. But I know the character was, a carryover. Like he was also the landlord or something on the other show.
He was the superintendent in the building.
I think he might be the same thing in this one. He's kind of lame. Like I said, it's a tough show to recommend because I half recommend it. It's got some really nice parts. I'm only 5 episodes in though, so. But, you know. And then the second show, sadly, is a show that's already off the air. But I missed it when it was on, and that's Hannibal. With Mads Mikkelsen and Claire Danes' husband, Hugh Darcy. It's a really good take on the Hannibal series, that character. It's beautifully shot, like amazingly shot. Like the cinematography is, and the color composition is just absolutely beautiful. And there's shots of food preparation, even the murders. When you see the displays, it's artistic. It's obviously terrible, but it's artistic in the same time. And Mads Mikkelsen makes a fantastic Hannibal Lecter. And for reference, I'm only on the first season. I think there's 3, but I know it's off the air already. There's talk of a Netflix reunion and all that kind of stuff, but who knows? But it takes place before Hannibal was arrested. And I think it takes a different take on the whole formula, but it's really cool. And I highly recommend that one. I fully recommend. One Day at a Time. I think it's worth, if you like sitcoms, it's definitely worth checking out. But you have to be ready for a very traditional 3-camera, maybe a laugh track or a live audience. I can't tell which in front of it. But like I said, I always want to turn it off halfway through the episode because I'm groaning at some of the jokes, but it always redeems itself.
Well, I always point to my age of 67, but I'm finally getting into watching the streaming series
Okay.
you're talking about. So I watched Mindhunter this summer and thought that was phenomenal. And I just finished the first season of Bosch on Amazon Prime Video, and I thought it was tremendous. So I'm currently downloading season 2 of that so I can watch that. It's a great, it just makes, as much as I fly, it just makes the flight so much more enjoyable. And they're so well done. It's just, I don't know what it is. Why Amazon or why these groups can make something so much better than the networks. I have no idea why.
Well, the sad thing about Amazon, and this is some news I read recently, is that when Amazon initially got into TV, they viewed it as an artistic endeavor and a prestige. They wanted to up their brand. They viewed HBO and AMC sort of as their models.
Mm-hmm.
And they were fine coming out of the gate with, since it's a sports show, I'll make the references baseball. They were fine with singles and doubles. Like, you had to be successful. But that's why they came out with, The Patriot and Transparent and shows that probably were never going to have a mainstream monster audience.
Okay.
But they were fine as long, because Amazon makes, I don't know, $1 billion a day. Is that a number?
I don't know. It's a big number, though.
It's a big number. And the guy that was in charge of the TV and film department seemed like he was happy making, critically acclaimed, smaller shows that you hope, obviously, every time you make something, you hope it gets a huge audience. But if it was a single or it was a double, he was happy to keep it going. If it was a well-liked, well-received show. But now the new guy basically says he wants everything to be Marvel and Game of Thrones. He wants home runs. He doesn't want,
Yeah,
so
I'm sad to hear that because
it makes me sad as well.
Bosch was just amazing.
Because you and I we read most of the Coben books with Bosch. It was Coben, right? They wrote those?
No, Bosch is Michael Connelly.
Oh, Michael Connelly. Yeah, we read almost all those books.
And Michael Connelly is a director on this and a screenwriter. And George Peliconos, who does a lot of crime stories about Washington, D.C., is a fantastic writer. He's also involved. I mean, the talent on the Bosch thing
is phenomenal.
Amazing.
And Titus Weaver, I think, does a really good job as the titular.
He does. It grew on me. I immediately, physically, he wasn't what I thought my image of that my mind created Bosch. He wasn't there physically. But I got to tell you, he acts like the character.
He does.
I mean, he didn't do anything that I thought was not Bosch-like. And that was just really, really well done. I really enjoyed it.
I'm happy to hear that. And again, it's not to say that Amazon won't continue to do, good work. I know they're going to bring Transparent back even without Jeffrey Tambor, which, a show about transgender is not something you would typically think would get a giant user audience. So that's nice that they keep putting those things out there. And maybe this won't be all they're doing, but I did read that in business, a film business magazine saying that's what the new guy wants.
No, and again, I talk about every week. The Alienist has really met my expectations, and that's on tonight. I've enjoyed that. And Bellevue is a real interesting series on WGN on Tuesday nights, and it's drawn me in. It reminds me, what was that one we watched on the BBC, Jay?
On the BBC.
He did the American version of it on the BBC. It was really good.
Broadchurch.
Yeah, Broadchurch.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me, it's a little quirky like that, but it's a really well done story. I probably wouldn't cast some of the people that are in it. Probably the actors aren't my first choice of who should be there, but the story's very intriguing.
Nice. Yeah, and also I'm only halfway through, but it's nice to see him doing stand-up again. Chris Rock has a new Netflix special too, bringing it back to the judgment.
Yes, and I want to definitely watch that for sure.
Yes, because he's a great stand-up comedian.
I've seen him in concert. I love him.
Yeah.
And I've seen him on a TV show, and I've seen his specials. I mean, he's good. Since Eddie Murphy stopped being funny, he's as good as it gets for me.
I'm a Chappelle man myself, but I loved it.
I love Chappelle.
Yeah. But
I watched, I hadn't watched it after the Super Bowl because it was too late. But Jimmy Fallon's show after the Super Bowl, where he does his impersonation of Bob Dylan, and he's written an updated song to the times they are changing that's very political. It's one of the best things I've seen on TV this year.
He's actually taken a lot of heat, and his ratings have dipped because he wasn't political enough, is what people were saying.
Well, he's very political in this, and his impersonation of Bob Dylan and his singing guitar is really, really good. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. And I tell all our listeners that it's well worth it.
All right. I'll have to check that out.
I think we've gone over our time tonight, but it was an enjoyable show. It was a fun show.
And it was our 1 year anniversary show. So again, thank you everybody that has supported us and listened to us. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we're getting better as the year is going on. And, we'll try to keep making audio and visual improvements as we hopefully get a few more subscribers.
Yes. And we won't be really emotional till the Steelers season. Although I'm going to have some bad moments during baseball season in the Pirates. I'll own it to it now.
I assume so.
Yeah.
Because you can't completely quit the Pirates, obviously.
No, I can't. I mean, and so, wait, one last thing. So, I had tickets in the Pittsburgh Baseball Club, which is the club section. I had them in row 1. They were great seats, and I had them for about 10 years. So, I didn't renew them this year. And so, they just came up with an offer, not to me, but to all the fans, okay? So, now, 2 years ago, you couldn't get a seat in the Pittsburgh Baseball Club. So, now they'll let you pick any 6 games that you want. Weekend, weekday, opening day, promotional days, fireworks night, giveaway, bobblehead nights, the whole bit. You can pick any 6 games you want, and they'll give you a $15 credit, food credit per seat. So if you buy 2 seats, they'll give you $30 worth of food to buy it as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So that should tell you how many people were pissed off in Pittsburgh besides me.
Yeah. Wow.
But the sad thing is I'm thinking about buying it, even though I said I didn't want to give nothing any money. It's just too good of a deal. I know I'll get a 6 games, so I'm on the fence about it.
Well, maybe the Angels will be in town for a home or a interleagues game, and you can pretend you're supporting them. I don't know.
No, they're not coming, but I am going to go when we go to Dan's wedding. I am going to go see the Angels.
Very nice.
All right, let's sign off. We'll talk to everybody next week.
All right, next week.